Twitless, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about Nemesis issue 4 by Mark Millar and Valerio Giordano. Nemesis Rogues Gallery, which is a follow up series to his character Nemesis. In this issue, the Nemesis Revenge Squad finally spring their trap and finally face actual, real, for real this time, Nemesis and his rookie, his kind of dark Robin character. And so they have a crazy melee fight. Nothing really goes according to plan. And in the aftermath of that, Nemesis has to deal with the fact that his plan has also not gone according to plan, and trying to, kind of pick up the pieces from that. In addition to that, we get a little bit more insight into that Nemesis Revenge Squad and the person who organized it. And find out that he, in fact, the organizer of this revenge squad against Nemesis, was the original rookie himself. And so he has a very personal grudge against our, can't even say hero, our villain, villain protagonist.
Hmm. So I've got a hot take, and that's that I think I like this comic again. I think I said something like that after issue 2.
That's my hot
Where
take, Matsy.
yeah, I think what it needed was we had to have somebody who actually has a relatively virtuous perspective in the story, who understands Nemesis and can judge him so that we don't feel like the world is just so garishly ugly and indulgently stupid. Like it can't be as bad as Nemesis. The world can't be that bad. And we know that there are people building up. There's this there's like a emergent like proto superhero gang that's building up to take Nemesis down, and we know uh they obviously have good intentions, but we haven't really been sold on them other than what's happened to them. And we saw in the last issue, we saw that I'm still a little confused. My other hot take is I feel like there was a secret issue between 3 and 4, because I thought that the end of 3 ended with a fake Nemesis getting his arm chopped off, and then suddenly we're fighting the real Nemesis in issue 4. Still pretty confused about that, but I feel like what you did need, it was a slow burn, but what you do need in order to set this story to rights and actually have a perspective that you can enjoy and appreciate fully, I think, is you need someone who can relate to Nemesis, can identify Nemesis, and tell you what's up with him through it, like experientially, and judge him. Nobody's been able to do that. Everyone is just like, you took out my eyes. I had to get robot arms instead, or but nobody knows him and can judge him except you, the reader. So you just kind of say, well, am I just gonna be a jerk and like Nemesis because the world does? And then you find out, no, there is a way in the story world to get at Nemesis and evaluate him ethically, and it's through the head of the I don't know, the sniper guy, whose name is escaping me. I feel like it's not of any consequence yet what his actual name is, but the previous sidekick character. So I'm actually pretty intrigued with that new turn of events.
Yeah, I'm just happy to see somebody have a character arc finally in this
Yeah.
in this series, and it turns out to be this pseudo superhero team. Um,
Mhm.
I do think issue 3 could have probably been told in maybe one page at the beginning of this issue, because there was nothing really that happened there of consequence. And as you mentioned, Matt C, that one character who occupied way too much time within issue 3 was just completely swept aside here, further emphasizing the point that it was a completely irrelevant storyline that we were
Yeah.
led down for that issue. But here, I agree. I'm finally starting to like the series. Maybe it's not fully redeemed. The one sore spot that stuck out for me in a lot of the character development that was happening here is what is the purpose actually of the new rookie? I don't understand why that character exists. I understand the original rookie, that was a character that was being manipulated by Nemesis, was used to his ends. I understand that character endeared herself to Nemesis and looked at him as a mentor and wanted to further their life and their expertise in crime. But this rookie just kind of is a tag along. He was psychotic from what I remember when he was recruited. Maybe Nemesis is using him, maybe not. It's irrelevant. I don't understand why the character is where he is. And Nemesis, of course, is building to his ultimate grand scheme of robbing all of the most influential people on the planet after receiving finally an invite to one of their get-togethers. And all of these things are paying off, but maybe what is the progenitor of this entire series, the idea of introducing a sidekick, really isn't paying off. So that's kind of a disappointment.
Let's take a brief pause to hear from the awesome creators joining us today and find out what cool projects they're currently working on.
Hey guys, if you love sword and sandal historical fiction with a healthy dose of ancient Roman and Egyptian fantasy mixed in, then check out Kyrie. We've got 450 pages printed so far, a fourth book on the way. Order your books today at curiecomic.com.
Modern day, classic superhero storytelling. Get The Adventures of Omega Girl, issues 1 through 5, now on Indie Planet.
Thank you to our awesome creators, and now back to the video.
I've made no, it's not been ambiguous that what my opinions are of this series or any of the Nemesis series, really. I don't particularly like it. But as opposed to me just kind of repeating the same thing over and over again, I kind of want to explore something, if I can, about a question that we've also asked regarding some of the absolute comics from DC. And I think it's interesting that, I think that the absolute Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Nemesis all have a similar question at the heart of them that can be asked. And I think it's interesting that we're getting these series all at the same time. And the question is, how much can you remove from the superhero and still have it be a part of the genre? And at the heart of that question is another question, which is what actually is the superhero genre, right? Is the superhero genre, I think, it's something that Matt would really like to add. This sounds like a very Matt question, which is like, is the superhero genre just costumes on people? If you put someone in a cape and they're doing something, and they're just having action, is that a superhero story? Is it enough to simply put Rookie in a badass costume and have him be violent? Is that a superhero story? Is it enough to simply have a character called Superman who came from Krypton? Is that enough for it to be Superman? Is it enough to have a powerful woman raised in a place that's not normal humanity? Is that enough to be Wonder Woman? Is it enough to have a man go through some tragedy and have some bat theme? Is that enough to be Batman? And here for Nemesis Rogues Gallery, again, we have that kind of question, and that to me gives me something interesting to chew on, because in this story we've got a group of traumatized individuals who are out for revenge, and they're armed with super gear, and the world is very dark and really is just filled with, I would say, victims and predators, really.
Hmm.
And the normal superhero universe is supposed to be filled with good people who are rewarded for being good by being protected by a superhero. Superman protects Ma and Pa, Kent, and Lois Lane, and they're good people. They're rewarded for being good by being protected by the invincible Superman, and that creates an impact on not just characters. It creates a aspirational tone. And so the superhero genre is one about good, not just good versus evil, in Manichean forces bashing each other in the face. in my view. In my view, the superhero story, and this is why there's a lot of religious people who actually do religious readings or even Christian readings of the superhero genre, and they say that the superhero genre patterns itself on messianic, redemptive, a redemptive view of reality. So all of that TLDR to say, I don't know if this is actually a superhero story or not. Or even I don't even know if it properly fits the genre. It's clearly about a supervillain, but the universe just feels wrong. It's very clearly trying to tap into the aesthetics, but nothing resonates here as actually a superhero story. But it does prompt those questions that a lot of people right now seem to be writing stories uh asking these questions, essentially. How what makes a superhero story, and that alone makes is fascinating to me. What do you make of that?
That it's fascinating because Mark Millar, I mean, he's known to us because he's clearly fascinated with the genre and with how to tinker with it, how to reassess it, maybe how to subvert expectations a bit, see if you can go darker than we're typically used to, see if we can go a little more raw, more rated R. I feel like that's how I know him is rated R superhero stuff in a way, right? But there's something here at issue 4. I I'm surprised you didn't like the original sidekick character for Nemesis, because that was starting to feel like, even though, like, I don't know, maybe we're celebrating small victories here with issue 4, because like Will Red said, we don't really know why he was dropped, and a new it actually doesn't feel very compelling, this story, that he was just dropped for no reason, and so he's now deciding to become a hero instead of a villain, because he's like, "Where did my daddy figure go? I'm gonna go defeat him now." Like, there's not a lot there, but that it did. I feel like there's something there that approaches a superhero story, of at least on an origin level, of kind of risen up from, you've got the rags to riches archetype, and then becoming a part of something bigger, becoming, finding a identity through this greater story, narrative story, that's embodied in teamwork with Nemesis, and then then he has this valley of darkness he has to go through, because he gets um Nemesis, basically frames him for lets him, take, I guess, take all the guilt for a particular heist or something.
Yeah,
You
he's a
can
patsy. He
steal
makes him a patsy. Yeah.
yeah, that's the term. And but then, like, out of that valley of darkness, he emerges with some kind of moral center, or he's going to lead a team to take.
Does
I guess, suppose he realizes he's actually a bad guy. He's not just a father figure that rejected him.
is it a
None of
moral
that
center?
resonates with you?
Is it a moral center? I thought it was just revenge. I've not
Yeah.
seen. I feel. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
it's there, but from what I've seen, it's just this guy sold me up the river. I want to beat his brains out or shoot him, because like the whole setup there was just for him to
Yeah,
snipe the
maybe.
guy. And so it's. I'm personally not seeing it. I'm not saying it couldn't be there, but nothing I've seen yet. It simply just is people who are just pissed, being like, we're gonna kill this guy. They when they try when they did the fake out, right, with the fake Nemesis, they just cut his arm off. It wasn't like, we're going to bring you to justice so you will actually face accountability for your crimes. We're just going to murder you in a back alley. So like it's that
Interesting.
universe is a it's just more brutalism, with just they just have a guys wearing capes.
It's a yeah, it's almost film noir actually, with superhero trappings, where there are no redeeming heroic characters. Everybody is dark. Everybody is villainous to a degree. Everybody has malicious intent and is serving their own ends. So I don't think I would categorize it in the superhero genre simply because they wear capes. Just like the Absolute series, they have the trappings of the original characters that they're parodying, but they're essentially just preachy, watered down,
So
social commentary pamphlets.
yeah, and
Mm.
this even boils down to the art, right? The guy who's blind, and he's on the cover, right? The guy who's been blinded, who's for no reason. He was nice to Nemesis. He was his nurse, while Nemesis was recovering from being brutally beaten by the actual superheroes of this universe, who we never see. Um, so this Revenge Squad guy, just the way the art is rendered by Don Giordano, you've got like this ominous helmet, heavy shading, red evil lights. Like this is not like a real like I'm an aspirational superhero character. But I will say the thing that I do find to be fascinating to not just go to just beat the same horse there. Why are we seeing in this moment these you know a resurgence of this questioning? That to me is fascinating. The fascinating thing is, why are there this? Why are we seeing, with the absolute DC series with Mark Millar's Nemesis? Nemesis is a character that Miller could have just left behind. He didn't really, what he was trying to do with him. He basically did in the first series, but now we get another attempt to essentially ask this question of, you know, how much can you remove from the superhero genre and still have it technically be the superhero genre? Or can we take the aesthetic of the superhero genre and turn it into something else? And to me, getting at the why creators are doing this and why
Mm.
multiple creators are doing this and companies are doing this as an initiative,
It's
like
damning.
like but to me, like answering the question of why they're doing that, that's to me is an
Mhm.
interesting question. And so like I would love to like, like plumb that a little more as opposed to me just saying, oh, it's not superheroes, I don't like it. Why are we seeing this? What do we detect as being at the root? What are some of your guys' ideas of what could be at the root of this impulse?
I'm not inclined, I mean, to put everything into the superhero box. So I guess it's hard for me
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
comprehend. You're asking what are the limits of deconstructionism.
Yeah.
I guess I'm asking why you gotta hate on Alan Moore so much there, Twitless.
I do, by the
It's
way.
his legacy in comics, like,
Yes.
can't you just revere him as all these creators so obviously do?
Hell no.
Yeah, I mean, we're on that tread. I agree that actually there probably is a bit of momentum to go in the other direction. I think people probably are getting tired of the deconstructionist approach.
Mhm.
Um, this series is still popular, and Miller has a following, and has been mining that genre for quite a while. So I believe he'll continue, and I believe he'll still continue to be successful in other forms of media by telling these kinds of stories. But in terms of where the storytelling zeitgeist is going, I do believe that more aspirational figures are coming more into the limelight. It's something that the population desires, is yearning for a myriad of reasons. Will Miller follow suit? I don't know. We actually should look at some of his other works and see if that's
Mm.
an area that he's tapped into before. Certainly, it's not with Nemesis, and maybe it was just the time to put this series out. But we'll see
Mm.
exactly where it all
You,
goes.
you you know what makes these questions awkward is that because initially I was going to prompt you further there, well read, and say, do you think that this is this simply the last gasp, the wrongly timed gasp of, oh, actually things are turning more aspirational with like James Gunn's Superman, and so on. Um, is this like essentially like a mistimed? Hey, we should. People still want more deconstruction and dark stuff, and that's so it's actually going to not resonate. But what's interesting is the fact that, from what I can tell, Absolute Batman is resonating quite well.
Mhm.
So like there seems to be, I don't know, maybe some confusion about like what where we're supposed to be on that aspirational deconstructive continuum, because there's clearly some momentum. I do agree with pushing things more aspirationally, but then there's still some gas in the tank here for, we're gonna do it edgy and do this kind of deconstruction. So I don't know. It's that's a bit of a puzzle.
Well, I mean, creators are going to always work in their wheelhouse, and I think Miller has carved out a very dedicated fan following, so he's successful in whatever kind of genre he decides to continue to tap into. In terms of what the audience is maybe demanding en masse, I agree. Absolute Batman is resonating. I don't think it's deconstructionist. I think it is aspirational. And
Mm.
that's why actually I would prefer to move away from calling it a Batman derivative. It's simply borrowing the aesthetics, but everything about the character, it's not brooding, it's not dark, it's not morose. It doesn't have any of the trappings of Batman, and I think it's just a very upbeat, you know, superhero archetype uh, story, and I find that one actually a lot more fan favored in terms of the reception than a
So
retelling of Nemesis for, I guess, the third or fourth
it's
time.
so upbeat that Batman cuts people's arms off with an axe.
I mean,
Sorry, that
we've
was a,
come a long way from the Silver Age. Upbeat has a whole new definition
I
today.
don't know.
I
I get
I
what you
think
say. It's just
Yeah,
I
mood and
think
tone.
Western cultures are as obsessed with heroism as they ever have, and superheroes was a way to get at that heroic ideal. And I think our culture does want to find some way to connect the superhero genre with that interest in heroism. It's not it's continually trying to figure out a way to do that. It's not sure how to do it. And we've got a lot of mixed results with that. But I think if there's something underneath superheroes, if you could boil if there's some sort of more primitive version of, like the themes and pursuits and ideals that are expressed in this genre, I think American culture is still as obsessed with it as ever. It's just not sure and it wants this to still be an expression of its ideals, I think. But we're just getting these mutant hybrids because we're not sure how to express it, I think. But it's
I
it's always gonna be the case that we're obsessed with heroes that are super, right? What do you what do you think?
I think it's time for final takes, guys. Do you want
Yeah,
to jump in?
fair.
Twitless, since you had a thought, uh, you can incorporate it into your final thoughts.
yeah, I think that I just kind of like ping off of what Matt C's saying and then give my final take. Um, One thing that I've been working with is the idea of American superheroes, and I think there's some scholarship that kind of backs this up, specifically with Captain America, who also Mark Miller wrote about with Civil War, which is the idea that when that Captain America was a representation of American consensus. And when Captain America was healthy, it meant that we had healthy consensus in America, or it was a sign of it.
Mhm.
And that when Captain America was getting like beat up, morally undermined, and killed and shot, it was a sign of the times that American consensus was complicated or dying or in flux. And so I think that struggling with the voice of that American superhero can be maybe a reflection of an America that is also struggling to articulate what it is anymore. You know what I mean? Like even since the war on terror, it's like what is our nation and what is our nation's role in the world anymore? And a lot of
Yep.
people have very different conflicting ideas on what that is. And so I think that I think you can have a reading of the genre, and if the genre is confused, I think it also reflects confusion on the part of American ideals and culture as well. That being said, the issue itself, I think, also reveals a little bit of a confusing mess at times. I'm still not entirely sure how we're going to land the plane here, and I mean that metaphorically and literally. That there literally is a plane they're trying to land at the end of this episode and where it's going. um, I really think the final comic is going to strongly the final issue, issue 5, is going to really inform me about how I feel about this overall series. I'm very tenuous until that point. So we really will see where he lands the plane. Not particularly fond of it, but he could pull something out of his hat in the final issue that changes my opinion. Other than that, it really is just more of the same for me.
Metzi, final thought.
I I liked the surprising added layers that we got from issue 4 with the second sidekick. That I, from all appearances, that this guy doesn't show up in a previous version of Nemesis, right? Previous run. So first time we're seeing him, and we're getting a new way of looking into the story world and evaluating Nemesis as a character. And I think it's getting some teeth now, and I'm appreciating that. And just overall, I can appreciate that Western comics and Western culture is really trying to figure out how to do superhero stories. And it's always going to try and do superhero stories because it's the most essential way that Western storytelling can get at that heroism. I think it's still enamored. It's and in a way, it's envious of how previous generations have been able to do it so straightforwardly, without any irony. And I think there is an attempt here, I think, to try to do something that is indulgent and cool and proud of itself. uh, even even if we're not seeing ourselves in this story, there's something here that believes in its message, and we're just gonna have to see what as we saw at the end of this, the other Jeffrey Epstein Island, where that goes. As trashy and as sloppy as that kind of plotting is, it believes in itself, and it continues to flesh out some sort of story dynamic that gives us an access point to understanding where Miller's going. So we'll see what issue 5 has for us.
Thank you very much for checking out the video. Subscribe, like, and stay tuned for more.